In today's ETRM training video, we will be going over how to create value tables for a measure. We can begin by clicking on the measure that you need to create a value table for. Then make sure that you have assignment of the measure. So I'm going to press assign user and assign yourself. The measure also has to be in draft mode, which will be indicated by the status at the top. As you can see, I don't have the measure in draft, so I'm going to press this gear in the left-hand corner and create a draft from this measure version. Once this is complete, we can travel to the supporting data tab, and we're going to go down into the value table section, and we have the option to add a value table. I'm going to press this and then press create a new value table. From here, you will name your value table, add a description, and populate the API field name. So I'm going to call my value table heat factor and just add this sentence so that when we finish creating the value table, you will be able to see this description. As you can see, the API field name is pretty similar to the title of the table. This is on purpose. It should be like this, but without having any spaces like the title of the table. If possible, use abbreviations. The API field name or variable name is what appears in the calculations, so keeping it short and using standard abbreviations will help the calculations stay compact but readable. We're going to skip the measure parameters section since we can't work on this until the value table is created and committed. So we can move on to the columns tab. We are going to delete the default value and add a few new ones. So I'm going to press delete and then press add. And I'm going to add heat factor as another value column that I would like to see. We will then assign it a unit and create an API field name. As you can see, the API field name is really similar to the title of the column and has no spaces, and you can also use abbreviations if you'd like. So we have a couple of different options for the unit. If you select text string as the unit, you will get an additional setting at the bottom to configure the filter widget type for this column. There are two options, keyword and select. Keyword is the default, and it means the text values in this column can be filtered by text search filter widget. You can change to select to allow the text values of this column to be filtered by multiple choice filter widgets. So for today's video, I'm going to be creating two, one using keyword and the other one using select. Then I'm going to add one more, but this is going to be a numerical value in decimal format. You can also add references if you would like. So for this particular measure, if I wanted to search up something that's related to ash rays, I could use this reference for example. Please make sure that you're using the most recent version of the reference. For the sake of this video, I'm just selecting a random one that I think would be applicable, but you can definitely search through the references ahead of time and then select it. Then we're going to click save, and our value table should be generated. As you can see here, we have the heat factor value table and it's all the way at the bottom. So we're going to click on this to add some parameters. So to do this, we're going to press configure in the right-hand corner and then press edit properties. And then we're going to press measure parameters. And here we can select what columns we would like to see populated in our value table. So I'm just going to go through here, select some values. And then press save. Once this is done, you can see that all of these columns have been added to our value table. However, there aren't any values that are populated. So to do this, we're going to go into full screen view and we're going to press permute. And this will now permute the 1500 missing rows in this value table. So I'm going to press yes to permute. And as you can see, all of these columns that we had selected are now populated. If you would like to edit the values that we have just created, you can press edit values and you have the opportunity to add what you want. and then you can press Save Changes once you're done. So as you can see, I've only added values into one row, and we have the option to prune around 1535 valueless rows. If I press this button, it's simply going to hide the values from this value table. So if you don't have the combinations ready at the time of creating the value table, you can simply hide the rows, and once you find the combinations later on, you can permute the rows again, and you can press Edit Values, and then you can enter all of them. You can also filter on the value tables as well. For a more in-depth video on the latest ETRM filtering capabilities, please see the video titled Filtering Data Tables. It will also be included in the description of this video. Before we move on, recall that when we created the columns earlier, for the column with the text data type, we selected either Select as a widget option or Keyword as a widget option. So if I press Filter here and I go to Heat Factor, you can see that I have the option to search by keyword. And if I press Apply, I get back my one result. If we go to the column for which we selected the Select widget for this column, you can see that it's a multiple choice selection. Or I can also select to include all the null or empty values. In summary, as the measure developer, you get to select how users filter the columns that you've created. Please see the training video titled Filtering Data Tables for more details on the differences between these two filtering types. And then for the last column, since it's a numerical value, I can enter a range, and it'll bring back this one value that is in between the specified range. Now, if we go back, we can also have the opportunity to import or export or even duplicate values into the table. So if I press import or export, it'll bring up a list of options in the operations tab. So I can export values for offline use, import values with a CSV data file. If I would like to duplicate this value table and use it in another measure, I have the option. And if I want to delete the value table, I also have that option. So since we're done with this value table for the sake of this video, we can delete this value table. So certain tables have conventions for title names. These conventions can be found in the Statewide Measure Development QA/QC Guidelines document, which can be found in the User Guides tab on ETRM. This document is currently located on the CalTF website, but can also be found on our new ETRM Help Center on FeatureBase. The user guide will direct you to either location. For today's video, I will show you how to find this via our FeatureBase Help Center. Let's start by navigating to the website and then clicking Help Center, and it'll open a new tab. We'll then click on this box titled Measure Development Resources, and it'll bring up a couple of options. We'll then press ETRM Templates and Guidelines, and we can either scroll down or we can use this slider on the side to navigate to Statewide Measure Development and QA/QC Guidelines. Next, we're going to download and open the document, and if we navigate to the Conventions section, that's where we're going to find all of the information for value conventions. And here you will receive all the information of the common value tables, their corresponding table names, table API names, column API names, and their order in the value tables list. CalTF staff regularly updates this document to match new statewide data specifications, so you should reference this document as you develop your measure. This concludes today's ETRM training on how to create a value table. Thanks for watching.